to Behind the Scenes. I am your host, Hector Montalvo. Joining us today here at our MCTV studios, we're happy to be sitting with Chairman of the Charter Commission for the City of Methuen, Mr. Joe Pappalardo. Mr. Pappalardo, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Hector. Thank you for having me here today.
Thank you for coming in the weather that we are in right now, snowing outside.
Yes, winter won't leave.
Yeah, tell me about it. Mr. Pappalardo, we invited you in because you were addressing the City Council in the last meeting to obtain funding to publish what was proposed in the Charter.
Yes.
Can you tell us about some of the proposals that were proposed in the Charter to start off with?
Yes. What we did is the Commission met over a period of approximately 18 months, 16 months, somewhere in that. We've had approximately 22, 23 meetings. It's been an ongoing course of events that took place, and we've come forward with some proposals that will be published in the Eagle Tribune on this coming Monday, the 28th. And after quite a bit of deliberation, we've had 2 public hearings. I know you attended, I think, 1 or 2 of them, Hector, yourself. You had input. We listened to the people that showed up at the public hearing. And one of the major topics that I remember the people really voicing an opinion for was to keep term limits, or even to go back to the old term limits, which were lifetime term limits. Back in 1993, roughly, I think somewhere around that time, there were term limits voted in by the voters of the city of Methuen. And at the time, they were permanent term limits. In other words, when I ran for city council back in 91, somewhere in that area of time, there was term limits voted in that I had to abide by. I could serve 6 years, maximum 6 years, 2-year terms for 3 of them, and then I would be termed out. That did not prevent me, and this is a very important part, that did not prevent me from going to the school committee. And if I chose to continue to serve and the good people of Methuen wanted to keep me there, I could run for 6 years as a school committee member. And looking further down the road, the mayorship, if they liked me so much, it didn't prevent me from serving another 6 years. Now we're up to 6 for council, 6 for school committee, 6 for mayor, 18 years. Now let's even go a little bit further. If the citizens thought that I was such a great politician and I was doing such a great job, there was nothing to prevent me from running for state rep or state senator. So to say that, you know, somebody is handicapped with the, you're taking away their ability to continue to serve, I think is really not true. Yes, you're terming them out. And the good part, in my opinion, and strictly, I want to say this right up front here, as I said in the last show that you had me on, I'm speaking for myself. I'm not here representing this Methuen Charter Commission as such. I am one member of a 9-member board, and I happen to be the chairperson of that board. What I'm expressing today on this show is my own personal feelings, okay? Joe Pappalardo, 40-odd year resident of the city of Methuen, voter here in Methuen, citizen. So I want that cleared up, you know. But the term limit issue, why I was a proponent of it way back when it first came on, was the fact, in my opinion, sometimes you have a politician, as I've said over and over again, that has been elected to an office, has the name recognition, number one, to stay there, has the ability of funding to stay there, and has also the other ability of having a good team that keeps them there. And I think what the term limits does, and I'm reaching out on your program as I have, and on any program that I go on in the next few months, an important message I want to put out there is We need more young people in this community to step up to the plate. It is a rewarding position to serve when you're able to help somebody, as I've stated before, move the ball a little bit. That's the reward. It isn't the money. A city councilor, just for the listening audience, a city councilor makes $4,500, I believe, $4,800 a year. The chair, the vice chair makes $54, I believe, and the chairperson gets $6,000. That's been the salary since I was there 18 years ago, 19 years ago. Maybe if the times weren't so bad, I think we would have explored possibly saying, if you want to attract more people, maybe you have to up, the salary. Just as a sidebar, the city of Lawrence, I am quite sure pays their councilors $15,000 a year, okay? And you'll find that a lot of other communities, and if you want to really graduate, the city of Boston, I think it's $90,000 or $100,000 you'd make as a council person. So that's something we could have explored, but with the economy in the tank the way it's been, we never went there. The council has the right to, to review that on a periodic basis, and maybe in the future they may consider something like that. But some of the things that we did bring forward, you asked me that in the original opening remarks. If I may, this basically will be, but of course it's going to be cut off. It'll be half this, cut away here. This will be the proposed charter document that will be inserted in the paper. Again, a couple of important things before I get carried away. We have a public hearing that is scheduled for the citizens, for anybody that lives in this community, that once they read this, we've scheduled it so you can digest it a little bit, review it. The public hearing is scheduled for March the 16th in the Great Hall, where we would invite the public. They've looked this document over. They can come forward and express their concerns either way, up, down, whatever, and maybe want to add something that the commission could still add. This is only preliminary report. There's a final report that's due 2 months from March the 4th, so that'd be May the 4th. And the reason why they've set it up, obviously, for the final report is if there are any revisions, any changes, you still have the opportunity to submit it to the Department of Housing, Community Development and Housing, and also the Attorney General's office, So, but getting back to, let me just go over. I got two things I'd like to talk about, if you'll allow me.
Sure, go ahead.
All right? First of all, I want to talk about some of the changes that were voted in, and I want to talk about another important aspect, so we let the listening audience know that there were other things brought up that never got out of the starting gate. And I will say this, a lot of the changes that have been adopted in this, of course we needed a majority vote to adopt, but I will say this, there is a majority on that group, as you know, and there are a minority group. I'm part of the minority group. I would say that 90% of the items that even have been adopted in this charter proposal, I would say were generated from the minority group. But we needed the others on board to even bring them forward. You follow me? Right. So let me just start off by saying this. I can read a little better without these. First of all, term limits, the big item. It reads here, the term of office for elected officers in the city shall be for 2 years beginning on the first secular day in January after their election and until their successors are qualified. Before it stated in the charter that basically you could serve 2 3-year terms, sit out 2 years, or jump over for them 2 years that you're supposed to sit out. You could go and, like another city councilor did, go over to school committee for 2 years. Then you could come back if you wanted to the city council position, okay?
Is that how it's written now?
No.
It's not written, okay.
Right now, it is the following, that if I should run for mayor, if I should run for city council, if I should run for any elected position, and the voters of Methuen put me in, I am not forced out. Every 2 years I'll come up to bat that I have to be reelected, but there's no term limit. You could stay there as long as the people continue to vote you in that position, okay? So term limits would have been eliminated from what is in the old charter, okay? The second thing is that I wanted to make mention to committees. The chairman of the city council shall appoint all standing committees, all special committees, shall fill committee vacancies and designate the rank of members of each committee unless specifically directed otherwise by a majority vote of the council. There shall be the following standing committees. We added this language to our charter. The solicitor thought at the time, indicated to my wife, who's a city councilor, that it maybe should be in the charter. Something called the Budget and Finance and a Personnel Committee. So those have been added, where now it's in the charter that those standing committees are on board. As you know, they are already functioning. The Personnel Committee has been meeting, and the Budget and Finance Committee has. With recommendations, they come back to the City Council. Everything has to be approved by the City Council that these committees, standing committees, do, okay? So that was another item that was added. A very important item, and I have to tell you this, Hector. When I was voted in as chairperson, I says, well, where am I going to begin the quest of trying to ascertain information of how we can better our community? And the best way that I knew was to review other cities, look at their charters, see if we could pick up different aspects that we thought opened our eyes a little bit and sounded good to us. So we did. And in the city of Lynn, for instance, that was one of the charters we reviewed, they had something that caught my eye, and I am proud to say I brought this forward at one of our meetings. And surprisingly, there was it seemed that, I will say, it was almost a unanimous vote to go along with something called the management audit aspect. What it is quite lengthy. I take up the rest of the show actually, reading it. But basically what it does is it puts more checks and balances on the auditing process that the city of Methuen would have. It would fall under the direction of the city council. They would hire the outside auditor that periodically would come in. In the city of Lynn, I think it was every 8 years, they would do a different department. Every year you would actually do a department. And we added, everybody was on board, so that is an important step, because not only in the language that I told you is quite lengthy, it states there that the recommendations would go back to the city council, and the auditing firm could tell you maybe areas you could consider on saving money, or things you're spending money on that you may want to take another look at. And there's a lot of good points that everybody seemed to be on board for the management. So that is now a new aspect of our new proposed language in the city charter.
So
okay?
Let me stop you there for a second.
Yeah.
Now, that particular statement there basically will give the people the right to know whether or not their money is being spent foolishly, or they need permission.
I think it tightens up, Hector. I think their rights have always been there, that they could go in, any citizen can go in and make a request. Some legislation that was passed by the city council recently that I know the council members were very, very happy to see it finally passed. A couple of times it had been proposed when my wife Jeannie got on the council. She wanted the checks that are written by the city posted online on a monthly basis. At the time when she first got on, this will be her third year, I guess, that she's on, going on to her fourth. she comes up to bat in November too. When she first got on, it went nowhere. We needed basically support of the council. She brought it back. You have to wait a year, I think, in order to bring it back. She brought it back, and between talking to the mayor, talking to the city auditor, talking to her fellow councilors, she says, listen, what's wrong with posting the checks on a monthly basis? If Hector Montalvo went in to the treasurer and says, you overcharged me on an excise tax and you get reimbursed for it, it'll show up on a monthly, the checks that are issued by. So that's always, it has been there if you went to request it personally, but now you can go simply online and say, hey, listen, I want to see what checks were written over the past 30 days ago. You know what I'm saying? And it'll show everybody that receives a check should be listed there, okay? So that was an important thing. So the management audit, what it does is tighten up and give, in my opinion, and the commission members' opinion, more teeth in keeping something called checks and balances. There's more accountability. There's an outside firm that will be hired by the city council to come in and extract information, go over the books, report back to the city council with recommendations, and so on. So it's a very important piece that I was very happy to see that we had the support to bring it in. So that is in this document, okay? The other thing is, what we've done is we have asked that we put in some language in the charter that a new city auditor, that comes on, a new city auditor, once Mr. Kelly retires, moves on, that there will be a requirement now spelled out actually in the language and body of this charter that basically states that the city accountant shall be especially qualified to perform the duties of the office, having a master's degree in accounting or CPA, or at least 5 years of municipal finance experience. We've added that we've cleaned up. There's been a lot of good things that this commission has added to the charter that needed addressing, okay? So that's another thing. Another aspect is the city kicking in some, and they're paid, the councilors or school committee members paying their portion, just like, so that will be eliminated. Also, the state passed with the retirement system. If somebody that is a city councilor, obviously making $4,000, now there's a $5,000 cap. You're not eligible unless you're over that dollar amount for any type of retirement, participating in the retirement, I gather, okay? Right. So that's been something. Something else there that I know that I brought forward at the time, I think Dottie and Pat Giuliano were very much on board on this too. Prohibition, no former councilor shall hold any compensated or appointed city office or city employment until 2 years after the expiration of their service on the city council or school committee, okay? In other words, that if I am a city councilor and I'm sitting there, and Hector Montalvo happens to be the mayor of Methuen, and Hector says, you know, would you consider coming on board as a position in my new administration? You know, I'm going to run. 2 years have to expire before a city council member or a school committee member can actually work for the city. So we think that was an accomplishment too.
Let me just stop you there real quick, Mr. Pappalardo. You are watching Behind the Scenes. I am your host, Hector Montalvo. Joining us here today at our studio is Chairman of the Charter Commission for the City of Methuen, Mr. Joe Pappalardo. And if you have a question for your government officials or legal representation, send us an email at thehectormontalvoshow@yahoo.com. You can also visit us on Facebook, Behind the Scenes with Hector Montalvo. Mr. Pappalardo, I wanted to ask you, all of this proposals sound really good for the people, and basically it will protect people and hold government accountable.
Right.
At the end of the day, what's the actual outcome? I mean, these are all good, but people don't have a choice whether or not they can vote on them individual,
Right.
correct?
You're absolutely right. And that is a flaw that I did not realize existed when we started the quest to get the signatures to bring this forward for the people of Methuen to vote whether they wanted a charter review commission. This is some guidelines that are been basically set by the state. I have been in touch with Senator Bedour's office. I've told the senator appeared at a public hearing. He came forward at one of the meetings, I know for sure. And I told him, I says, first of all, we're being mandated to do certain things as a charter commission. One of them is we'd like to be able to break down individual questions. That came out loud and clear at the public hearing. Why can't we break down? But according to the law, we could not break down anything that affected the mode of election, the composition, and it was involved that way. The dollar amount that they allocate for a charter commission is $5,000. The original quote we got to put this insert in the paper was $5,111. It was an estimate. I understand that. I had good news the other night that the Tribune says they're going to do it for roughly $3,000 some odd dollars. They're going to. So that's a reduction. But when I first heard, I says, how can we have a budget of $5,000. You're going to eat up $5,000 just in the insert for the preliminary. So we asked the senator to intercede. He's working on legislation that he's going to present and see if we can become from, I guess the last time it was reviewed, the Charter Commission legislation, etc., was back in the 80s. Now he's going to bring forward some proposals that will make it easier for future charter commissions, okay?
So if it's going to cost an estimated of $3,100, I believe it was stated
Right.
at the city council meeting, to publish this information for the viewers, who's actually paying that? The residents of Methuen?
It's coming out of the treasury of the, absolutely, the
So
taxes.
it
Yes,
is the
everything
tax.
comes right out of it. There is no, the money came from the city of Methuen,
Okay,
yes.
so from the
And-
people of Methuen.
Right,
So if the money is coming from the people of Methuen,
yes.
what are they getting for that money right now?
What they're getting is what they've basically voted for. They voted at the time for a group of people that ran. There was 30-odd people that ran for the position. They're getting a report that's going to be presented to them. You know loud and clear the way I feel on some of the things that have been tampered with, some of the things that have been put in here with. They will get, I've done my job, the commission has done their job. They asked us, and it was our task to bring forward any revisions. Now, I may not like the revisions, but I was outvoted in majority rules. Now, the safeguard is the people of Methuen are going to look at this document. They're going to get it, they're going to review it, and they're going to say, yeah, you know something, there are a lot of good things on it. Maybe we are going to sacrifice and give up term limits. They may vote for a yes vote to accept this. Do you follow me? And that could possibly, they'll either vote yes or no. No, we go back to what we started out with, the original charter.
So if it's a no vote,
Right.
nothing changes in the charter.
Nothing basically, absolutely. No.
And if it's a yes vote, most of all the good proposals that were proposed,
Yes.
with the exception of term limits.
Right, but let me, while we're touching on that, I told you, and I'm glad you reminded me because I know the time's running out. We brought up a lot of other proposals that never seen the daylight, that I wish we had the majority of the vote so they could see the daylight. For instance, there was talk of having a separate elected water and sewer commission, okay? I really felt that myself personally, again speaking for myself, was maybe a step in the right direction. Didn't have the support for that. Another thing that I know under the old charter, see, the problem is the charter has been diluted through a process called home rule petitions. And it can still be diluted. I'm not going to mislead anybody. No matter what's in here, it can be diluted. If a city council has the votes to present to the state legislature to dilute it, they can dilute no matter what you put in here. All right, so let everybody know that. But I've lost my train of thought. But
so let me just ask you this.
yeah, go ahead.
You stated in the opening that they will, once it's published,
Yes.
the people will have the right to come to a hearing and address the issues.
Just like they have in the past too.
Now, what happens if we've seen what happened in government already? I mean, everyone gets ignored, and they will end up doing what they want to do because they have the votes. Now, let me just ask you this.
Yep.
What good would it do if that place where they have the meeting is full packed and people are addressing these issues? Will they be ignored?
I would hope that if, this is something I mentioned at the council meeting, you heard me loud and clear, Hector. I was disappointed over the past year and a half, roughly, of having meetings of the poor attendance. I said that. I mean, the maximum that I can remember having at any of our meetings was maybe 25 people, okay? And that was right at the inception when this was really, people were on board. And so I would be pleasantly surprised, and I would be jumping for joy if the hall was packed on the 16th, and if the people were there expressing themselves, pro or con, whatever way they feel, the stuff, you know, that we've come forward with, the proposals we've come forward with, whatever it is, I'd be very, very happy about that, you know. You're right. In most instances, the politicians, and that's what was the whole reason behind the drive for, we thought changing this document and adding new language. You're 110% right. Sometimes, once elected, politicians, instead of being like this, listening, they're like this.
Oh, my favorite
You've been on
line.
that kick for quite some time.
And I agree.
And you're right.
I'm a firm believer that politicians and diapers do have one thing in common, and that's the reason they must be changed regularly, and for the same reason. I want to thank you for coming in to discuss this particular charter thing. I would like to invite you to come back in after the public meeting, and we'll follow up some more on this issue.
There's much more. I want to go over other proposals that never happened.
We'll do that at another show. I want to thank the crew at MCTV. I want to thank the staff at MCTV, and I want to thank you at home for watching. Join us next time as we go behind the scenes to ask the tough questions, bring you their responses. We let you decide. Thank you for watching.